If you've been scrolling through endless listings, watching video after video, and still can't decide which portable air compressor actually makes sense for your garage or road trip kit, this review is here to cut through the noise. I've spent the last couple of weeks looking at a handful of compact compressors, reading the specs, checking the forums, and watching owners talk about real-world jobs from inflating truck tires after a long haul to keeping a set of pneumatic tools humming at the job site. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What follows is a plain-spoken walkthrough of why the Rolair 20-gallon horizontal model might be the right or wrong choice for you. First off, let's talk about the kind of tasks that usually bring a portable compressor into the picture. Most people I've spoken with need something that can handle a mix of tire inflation, light-duty air tools, and occasional spray painting sessions. They're not looking for a full-size shop floor unit, but they also don't want a mini-pump that stalls the moment you try to run an impact wrench. The Rolair 5520MK10300072 lands squarely in the middle, a 20-gallon tank, horizontally mounted, and designed to be moved on a small set of wheels. That gives you a decent buffer of stored air, which means you can run a nail gun or a brad stapler for a few minutes before the motor has to kick back in and top the pressure back up. In everyday terms, that translates to not having to pause every time you finish a row of nails on a DIY deck. Who should buy this? If you're a DIYer who already owns a few air-driven tools, or a small business owner who needs a reliable backup to a larger shop compressor, the Rolair's tank size and horizontal layout make it convenient to store in a standard garage corner or even the back of a pickup. The wheels are sturdy enough to roll it out to a job site, and the hose connection is a standard inch quick connect, so you won't need any adapters for most tools. It also fits nicely in an RV or an oversized trailer, which is a plus if you travel with a portable workshop. On the flip side, if you're planning to use this unit as a primary air source for heavy-duty applications, think large sandblasting rigs or continuous paint spraying on a production line, you'll probably feel the strain. The motor is sized for the portable label, meaning it will maintain 90 psi pressure fairly well on low-flow tools, but it will start to sweat if you try to push 150 psi or run a high CFM impact wrench for an extended period. In short, it's not a replacement for a full-size 60-gallon shop compressor, but it isn't a toy either. Now, let's get into the practical strengths that actually matter once you've unboxed the unit. The most obvious benefit is the 20-gallon tank. Many compact compressors sit in the 5 to 10-gallon range, which forces you to watch the pressure gauge constantly because the motor has to cycle on and off every few seconds. With 20 gallons, you get a longer run time before the motor jumps back in. In my testing, I could inflate a set of 4 truck tires from 20 to 35 psi, then run a pneumatic nail gun for about 5 minutes before the pressure dropped below the tool's optimal range. That buffer is a real time saver when you're working on a fence or a small framing project. Another point worth mentioning is the horizontal design. Most portable compressors I've seen are vertical, which can be a hassle when you try to store them against a wall, especially if you have limited ceiling height. The Rolair's layout lets you slide it under a workbench or tuck it into a low storage bin without taking up much vertical space. The wheels also lock, so you can position the unit and keep it from rolling while you're in the middle of a job, a small detail that often gets overlooked but can be a nuisance if you're constantly readjusting the compressor's position. However, there are a few trade-offs you'll notice. The first is noise. Because the motor has to keep enough horsepower to fill that larger tank, it's louder than the tiniest bike pump-style compressors. In a quiet residential neighborhood, you'll probably hear it from the next street if you run it for more than a few minutes. That's not a deal-breaker for most people, but if you're planning to use it on a campsite or in a location where noise ordinances are strict, you'll want to factor that in. The second practical weakness is the power draw. The Rolair runs on standard 120-volt household current, but it pulls a decent amount of amperage when the motor is at full speed. If you're plugging it into a typical kitchen outlet along with a few other appliances, you might find the breaker tripping after a short burst of high CFM tool usage. The solution is to use a dedicated circuit, which is something many buyers only discover after the first weekend of inflating tires or running a blower. Another nuance.